Welcome back to the Walking David podcast. I'm your host, David Grayson, and today we're going to be discussing a fan theory in which Rick Grimes has been a CRM test subject since season 1. When I stumbled across this article by Screen Rant, I was actually shocked that it managed to grab my attention because most of these Walking Dead articles, they kind of, they do the same thing as like YouTube thumbnails, you know what I mean? They kind of clickbait you into reading it, and it's just kind of a nothing burger. But this one kind of piqued my interest because I guess in the back of my mind, I was wondering if the show, The Ones Who Live, or even the main show would ever kind of address this topic. We all know that there has been a lot of helicopter imagery in The Walking Dead. Like in the very first episode, we see Rick kind of chasing after a helicopter. And then throughout the series, we see him kind of spot a helicopter. And there's a lot of these. We see it in season 1. I think we see it even in season 5. I know that we see it in season 8 where Rick is kind of like looking up. It's around the time when he's like threatening Negan over the walkie-talkie and walking by himself in the woods. And then obviously we see it the episode in which Rick departs in season 9. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read through the article. Maybe not all of it, maybe all of it, I don't really know. But we'll just kind of talk about it briefly and react to it, and that's going to be the episode. Okay? So let's just get into it. Holding for airplane. This is an article written by a collaborator with Screen Rant named Kelly Hendrixie? Kelly Hendrixie. Okay. And it's titled, Walking Dead Theory Reveals Rick Has Been a CRM Test Subject Since Season 1. With insight into the virus revealed in the Walking Dead spin-offs, there's a theory that the CRM has had Rick as a test subject since Season 1. The Walking Dead spans multiple years and spin-offs, some of which help spark the theory that the Civic Republic military, otherwise known as the CRM, has had Rick Grimes, Andrew Lincoln, as a test subject since the very beginning of the TV franchise. With the recent Rick-centric spin-off announcement for The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live, following the surprise glimpse at Rick and Michonne, played by Denai Guerrera, in the final season of the main show, fans are left speculating about the extent of Rick's involvement with the CRM. This connection between Rick and the organization may be more long-standing than originally thought. I gotta say, what I hate about these articles the most is all the fucking pop-up ads. Drives me crazy. You can't even read anymore without ads being thrown in there. The walker population has been fairly standard across all of the franchise's shows. Some exceptions are Fear the Walking Dead's nuclear walkers and The Walking Dead Dead City's multi-arm variant in the sewers of New York. But faster, more cognitively aware walkers were hinted at in The Walking Dead The World Beyond, and teasers for Daryl Dixon. With the CRM's confirmed scientific focus on research and lab work, and high security secrecy about what they do, it's no stretch to think that their science is only centered around the virus itself, and by extension, any variant mutations. All mentions of Rick in relation to the CRM, as well as the time frame references scattered across some of the shows, open up suggestions that Rick and the CRM's history may be as long as the shows. This next subheading says, Rick is valuable to the CRM, but why? Oh, mysteries abound. Rick is one of The Walking Dead's most dynamic protagonists. From a man of the law to a ruthless killer to a merciful leader, Rick shows astounding resilience throughout his time on the show. However, his knowledge of the CRM until now is at best wobbly. In season 7 and 8, Jadis, played by Pollyanna McIntosh, the leader of the Scavengers, forces Rick into combat with an armored walker, which could hint to further testing, this time of his strengths and reflexes. After the war against the Saviors is over, and Jadis' Scavengers are all dead, she joins Rick's group. Later, it's revealed that she's trading lives for supplies with the CRM, and had planned to do the same with Rick and Gabriel. The CRM's interest in Rick may be because he is demonstrably strong, resourceful, and as mentioned before, resilient. All of these traits could easily be tested in the harsh conditions of an apocalyptic world, as seen by Rick's Walker showdowns in the Scavenger junkyard. But throw in virus mutation testing on humans, and it's a whole other story. Because of his physical traits, Rick makes sense as an option for the CRM to test their scientific research in practice. Additionally, his technical training, being a deputy sheriff before the outbreak, may explain why they could have targeted him so early on. Okay, listen. I get what you're saying. A lot of the term retcon is going to come up more and more with these spin-offs. We're really, really going to see it, where we retroactively go back and try to apply meaning to things that had no meaning. I'm not expecting anything that they do in the spin-offs to improve the main show. No matter what it is. You know what I mean? Like, the helicopters could mean something, they could mean nothing. It could just be a terrible coincidence, or maybe they thought they were going to go one direction with the writing and they chose to go a different direction, or due to budgetary reasons, they couldn't really make it fly, or whatever. There's a lot of reasons why that could be important or unimportant. Because it really didn't bother me until we got into like season 8 and season 9, the lack of addressing what in the fuck is going on. But so far, to say that like the CRM is more focused on Rick because he has all of these great traits, I'm not saying that Rick isn't my favorite character. He absolutely is. But in the start of the show, he's kind of spindly. He's not super aggressive. Like that would mean that Shane could equally have qualified for the CRM. And if anything, Shane was more far gone and more ruthless and was actively wanting to go to Fort Benning. I mean, if they were like spying on him, they could have easily found Shane, right? Because Shane talks about how people were coming through, like the military came through and was just killing people, not walkers. And the only reason that Rick even lived was because Shane blocked off the door. Now, how they would even figure out what his background was in the midst of an apocalypse and track him down, I have no idea. That it feels like there's a lot of us having to do the mental gymnastics to make that part of the story fly. You know what I mean? Like in that time frame in which the flowers by Rick's bedside withered and he ran out of fluids. You know what I mean? And he woke up from his coma. Well, the CRM experimented on him. It's like, we have no proof of that, okay? It was already the only thing that helps that. The only thing that helps that is that would fill in why he survived without any food, without any water, without anybody helping him for weeks. Having said that, the human body can endure starvation and hunger for a very, very long period of time. And especially if your body's in a coma and it's not using any of its resources, you probably could survive. But it's a little wishy-washy as to how long he was under. Some people say like, oh, it was 19 days. Some people say it was 2 months. Some people say 3 months. It's kind of up in the air. Okay. The Walking Dead hinted at the CRM in Season 1. Well, we will see. Come on, Kelly. When first meeting Officer Friendly himself, there's a fragile, bewildered quality to him after he wakes up to find himself alone in the apocalypse. Within the first 15 minutes of the main show's pilot, audiences get a potential first reference to the CRM. The helicopter Rick stumbles past as he wanders outside the hospital, and then again the one that whirls overhead near the end of the episode when Rick's riding horseback through the city. The latter is even more enticing since Rick sees its reflection in a skyscraper and tries to follow its direction, but gets ultimately stopped by a herd of walkers. We don't know for sure if that's the same helicopter. And it's early enough on to where who knows if there would be a CRM. CRM, like Civic Republic Militia or whatever. What did that stand for? Let me scroll back. What did it stand for? The Civic Republic Military sounds like something that would have evolved eventually, maybe after like a year or two. Like an attempt to rebuild society, but it wouldn't have been called that before. You know what I mean? So I don't really think that the CRM existed then, but let's see what case Kelly makes here. At the time of the episode's release in 2010, however, there was no clear sign that the show would be headed towards a CRM-centric storyline, but their possible intervention or doctors enlisted by them could be how Rick survived being in a coma for roughly a month while most people were turning. So that's kind of talking about like what I just said. That could be the thing that kept him alive. That's an interesting idea, but there's no way that they planned for it to go this direction, because Frank Darabont was a completely different showrunner and he had a completely different vision in mind for how the story was going to go. So if Robert Kirkman had written the CRM into the story in the beginning, we would have seen traces of that, clearly. Because Frank Darabont was really using the comic book as a reference, and if it had been in the comic book like that, then we would have seen it. He wouldn't have just skipped over that. I don't believe. Continuing. While the helicopter in the main show's pilot does not have the official CRM logo, it's arguably a subtle nod to the formidable antagonist organization when looked at retrospectively, or otherwise, when you retcon everything that you know from present day and you apply it to the past, in which it had no importance, you could do the mental gymnastics to make it seem like it actually was well conceived. This is a little bit of the denial sandwich again. That's what you just did. You sandwiched it. You had it, you lost it, you found it again. Boom. Denial sandwich. You just ate a huge bite of a denial sandwich. I'm not saying that she's not making an interesting point here, but I'm just saying it's a little bit of a denial sandwich, is it not? You're trying to fit this puzzle piece that just doesn't quite fit. You know, you're shoehorning it in. Treating the helicopter as a clue foreshadows Season 8, where Rick sees a CRM helicopter in Episode 5, and Season 9 of the main show. Season 5 and 6, briefly, of Fear the Walking Dead, and both seasons of The World Beyond, when the CRM forms part of various storylines. That was a jumbled mess. I'm sorry, that was just written weird, so I'm sorry if I read it wrong, Kelly, but that didn't flow was great with me. Subtitle: What the CRM could have done to Rick before The Walking Dead. Okay, so this is an interesting bit. Let's get into it. While Fear the Walking Dead and the main show teases fans with glimpses of the organization but no real follow-up, World Beyond provides the biggest evidence that can support the theory that Rick had been a CRM experiment all along. The World Beyond is one of the worst shows that has ever graced a television screen. And I know that The World Beyond was... The World Beyond is to The Walking Dead that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is to Marvel and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, okay? Nobody wants to have to watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to understand, Thor Ragnarok. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to have to watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to appreciate Captain America Civil War or the Avengers Infinity War. Nobody wants to do that, okay? Big step down. The World Beyond was arguably even worse than that, though, because at least Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. actually had like an attempt at a story. The World Beyond was just like bad acting and bad writing and just ill-conceived from the jump, and now you've made it canon, and that's a problem. This is like when they make, they make a knockoff. It would, you know what The World Beyond would kind of be like? The World Beyond would be like if you tried to make the Great Value brand of like cereal as popular as the name brand cereal. You go, guys, check out this Great Value Lieutenant Crunch. You go, that's not Captain Crunch, though. That's not Kellogg's Captain Crunch. They go, it's Great Value Lieutenant Crunch. You don't like it? It's like, no. It's a name brand for a reason. We like the good one, not the cheap knockoff. Back to it. In the second season's finale of The World Beyond, a post-credit scene reveals the franchise's first shift outside the United States. In the second season's finale, a post-credit scene reveals the franchise's first shift outside the USA. French doctor is seen watching a video message from Dr. Jenner, who appeared in Season 1, Episode 6 of the main show, when a man arrives aiming a gun at her. Okay, are you guys just writing this stuff in a hurry? Slow down, please. Why are you doing this? You are a better writer than this. You are a better writer than this. But that is not how a sentence flows. Put commas, add sentences. Don't put everything in parentheses for no reason and do that. I'm not trying to critique your grammar, but it's making it impossible to make your points clear when it's so shoddily written. I'm trying to understand you though. Go ahead. This exchange highlights how integral the French research team are not only to the supposed attempts at a cure for the virus, but also to the spread in America and variant mutations. Theoretically, the Primrose team, mentioned by the gunman, might have joined forces with the CRM, who then utilized a variant cohort of the virus on Rick to test for any adverse reactions or even to trial a potential cure by infecting him first. If these tests prove successful, the CRM may have even used his blood to store a cure for retrieval at a later stage. Okay. That was a really, really, really bad way of saying they used him as a test subject and test dummy, and they watched him to see if the serum worked, to see if he actually... This would have had to been proven when Rick gets out of the hospital. This is what they're thinking in their head. When Morgan's like, "What's your wound?" When he says that, and he says it was pretty rank, I mean, it would have been interesting if, since Rick, in my mind, I'm a continuity guy, sorry, but he was shot more like in the shoulder, like through this part and came out the shoulder, but his bandage was on like his ribs. Now, if you had made it to where he had a slight bite or a scratch that didn't really make any sense, so they had infected him and then covered it up and then treated it like they had sealed up a bullet wound, so that if found, they wouldn't immediately assume that he was bitten and infected and kill him. Okay. But once again, why am I having to play so much? Why am I having to play writer here? Why am I having to do all the heavy lifting? That's what the show's supposed to do. And also, by giving this stuff purpose, you're kind of taking away from the lovely mystery that was the first season. The whole point is that we are living vicariously through this man, through Rick Grimes. We are discovering as he is discovering. To retroactively go, we knew what was going on the whole time, and you were just watching this guy who was a test subject the whole time. It's like you risk the chance of ruining the love of the original show. You know what I mean? Because people might go, "Oh, well, that's really old hat and played out." You know what I mean? And also, if you had intended to give him the cure, you would have to watch him so much closer. There's so many opportunities where he could have died or, gotten bit and just died in vain or gotten shot. And he got shot multiple times in this show. Rick's been shot like 18 times in this show, like skimmed by a bullet and, hitting the shoulder and the knee and the leg and been stabbed and all these things. And it's like no signs of helicopters, no signs of anybody hiding behind the bushes, nothing. We could have easily incorporated that. Why would you not incorporate that more? Because even when characters like Tara and Heath, when they find that little PPP card that they just abandoned, if that was a CRM thing, how come Rick didn't find it? How come they didn't put it in a position where Rick found it, a guy who was a cop who might actually be able to do a little bit of digging, or who might go back to inspect the crime scene or wherever he found that piece of evidence? Why not put it in front of him? Seems odd. Okay, let's get through this. Rick, as a CRM subject, sets up his spinoff and changes his past. Okay, well, we're getting into it. Maybe this person knows what they're doing. Maybe we agree. When Andrew Lincoln left The Walking Dead during Season 9, Rick leaves in a CRM helicopter with Jadis, badly injured after being impaled, then blasted in the notorious bridge explosion. That seems like a continuation out of period. Rick leaves in a CRM helicopter with Jadis, badly injured after being impaled, then blasted in the notorious bridge explosion. Despite this, he is alive. This comes after Jadis makes a deal and tells the organization she has a B. However, in the world beyond, she confirms that Rick is an A, and she lied to protect him from undergoing experimentation with test reanimation drugs. Yikes. But sticking to the idea that the CRM had already started their experimenting on Rick in season 1 of the main show, Jadis's attempt is futile. If Rick had been infected with a virus mutation and preliminary cure, this means his future in his and Michonne's spinoff may include a much more unfamiliar version of him than fans are used to. How? This especially rings true if further testing occurred after Jadis's confession from the world beyond. Or perhaps, if Rick remained a B, he may have discovered the truth about the variants and testing, which could have played a part in his reasons for escaping, as seen in the Ones Who Live teaser at the end of Season 11. Consignee Grimes. Ultimately, this theory that Rick may have been infected and cured already begs the question of what would have happened had he died or been bitten in past seasons. Right! What if he got eaten alive by like a horde? Multiple times he almost gets eaten alive, he almost gets bit on the face. You wouldn't have found anything left of him. Would you hope that he just got gnawed by walkers and then you save him at the last minute? So you let him endure getting mortally wounded and then try to save him from the brink and then go, hey, at least you're not going to turn. I don't know. Additionally, any moments in his past where loved ones were lost, which is a common occurrence on The Walking Dead, yes it is, or was, he could have unknowingly had the answer to saving them all along. Most notably when Carl Grimes, Chandler Riggs, dies after getting bitten. Right. Can you imagine if he finds out that he has the cure in his blood this whole time? And he just let everybody who ever got bit or infected just die? And he had the answer with him the whole time? You would just break his brain. What little of it remains, probably, after being shot and injured and stabbed and in a coma and in another coma in this new show or whatever, you would have just ruined this guy. If Rick had a cure on him, literally, it's no question he would have saved Carl, right? Okay, yeah, we get that. So, how The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live may go is still up in the air. But wherever the story takes Rick, what is confirmed is how deeply intertwined he is with the CRM and their scientific work. Okay. Listen, it's not the worst fan theory I've ever heard. Obviously, it piqued my interest enough to even make this. Having said that, if you're going to have a fan theory, it needs to just be more than this speculation. You have to really make your case. You know what I mean? You have to bring up way more hints. Like, you have to connect things that... it's like when people go, oh, if you play Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon and you start at the exact same time as 2001 A Space Odyssey, it lines up perfectly. You know what I mean? You have to make your case. It's like a Star Wars theory where you have to connect all of these different movies and films and explain your theory about how the Force was really in Han Solo this whole time, and that's how he was able to save everybody. You know, like, you have to make your case. There are ideas brought up, but there is no case being made. It's a very sitting on the fence kind of, hey, I'm not saying this, but it's just, I heard it, you know, through the grapevine. Robert Kirkman wrote this story and said openly, there is no cure. That is not the story I wrote. There is no cure. They are just dealing with this world that they live in. Everything that they face because there is no hope and there is no cure. The only hope that they have is each other. So to do this, I guess you're just going completely off the rails and you're just abandoning the original creator's goals. And I don't know how he's allowing you to do it. I don't know if his name is going to be on that show. I don't even remember if his name's attached to The World Beyond other than like a story by or a created by, from the mind of Robert Kirkman or something like that. I don't like it when spin-offs go against, or new trilogies or new iterations of something go against the main writer's wishes, because they didn't write it that way for a reason. And the reason that you love it is because of what they wrote, not your fan theory. It's like how when everybody, right, in the fan base was going like, "Oh, the end of the show is going to be Rick waking up from a coma and like his nurse was Michonne and uh his real brother is Daryl," and stuff like that, And I was just like, "Listen, the guy who wrote it said, 'Hey, you guys, I don't know why I have to address this, but that's not what I fucking wrote. Like, why would I do that? That's such a lame story convention to tell. It makes my story as boring as everybody else's.' The coma is a plot device, but it is not going to be the story's MacGuffin, where it's like, oh yeah, later on he wakes up and he was really just playing with a snow globe the whole time." It's like, this isn't Dallas. This isn't how it ends. This isn't the Newhart show. You know what I mean? "Oh, I had this horrible dream where I ran a B&B and everybody was crazy and all this stuff." It's like, no, 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 no. That would undercut the tension of the show so much, but there's so many people who really wanted that to be it. And it was such a divisive topic in the fan base that just the speculation of it was causing people to like ruin their enjoyment of the show. And that's why Robert Kirkman and like Greg Nicotero and Gail Ann Hurd and Scott Gimple had to come out and go, "No, he's not still in a coma. He's not." And I don't know what they're necessarily going to do in this new show. I've already had a few like glimpses of things that they kind of spoil, like certain characters' conversations, and I hate that stuff. I won't even mention it here because I hate spoilers. I really, really do. And I hope that it is good. I hope that it defies or subverts my low expectations. I'm trying to keep low expectations though, so that I can still enjoy it. If I actually have like some grandiose expectations from this show, I may not enjoy it. I had a lot of people hyping up Dead City, and that kind of killed it in a lot of ways for me. Because it's like, guys, you'll never live up to the hype. If it's good, let it be good on its own merit. If it's really good, don't spoil it for people. Don't tell people it's good. Just tell people you got to check it out. That's all I'm going to say. Go check it out. But I don't think Rick would have even been the best test subject, and there also should have been more hints throughout the show of there even being test subjects. A file that was mistakenly left. Something fell out of one of the helicopters that led to a clue, that led to something else, and Rick always carried it with him. And then that same helicopter comes back, and he remembers it because the thing that fell out of that helicopter the first time has the same logo as the one that he sees over his head. These two things are connected. What is this? What are these three circles? What the fuck is it? You know what I mean? Get some mystery going. Because we see the three circles, and they even teased it, if I remember right. They teased it it was the trailer called like Rise Up. There's probably some pictures that I can post, but it was like The Walking Dead, Rise Up. And it was supposed to be like Rick and the group rising up to fight the Saviors. And it was really cool artwork. It was kind of this blood red artwork and stuff like that. And a big part of the teaser was seeing Rick's face, and overlaid onto it was the 3 rings of the CRM. That's how they started the pitch for The World Beyond, was they showed a clip of Rick looking up and seeing the helicopter with the 3 rings, and then I think they showed that helicopter landing, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I might have a video of it. But they show the helicopter landing, and that kind of butch woman comes out of the helicopter in her all-black military garb, and her soldiers, and they all have the 3 rings, the little, biohazard symbol on their coats. And once again, I don't understand, okay? Because Rick wouldn't be the only one that they did it on. If you're doing an experiment, you have to use a lot of people. You would need to use men, women, and probably children. I don't even... And it doesn't make sense. That's the problem, is there wasn't enough establishment of how long it takes for people to even turn to make doing test subjects of people who got recently bit or died like valid. You know what I mean? And I know they try to tease it a bit in like Fear the Walking Dead, where you got like Troy and he's like counting how long it takes for walkers to turn and he's got his theories, but there's no like I'm giving this book and I'm passing it to a guy and then that guy has the book in the world beyond and he goes, "I found this book. Maybe it could be useful for our findings or whatever," and then hands it to a scientist and then they just go, "Oh my god. This is death records. This says point of being bit, 3 hours, 27 minutes. That's how long it took him to turn. But they're all different." And then that's how you could introduce that there is a variant of the disease, and that's why certain people die and turn faster than others, is because that's how the variants work. Is that, oh, if you have, a quickly metastasizing one, you die and you come back in 30 seconds. But there's also people who get bit and don't turn for days. You know what I mean? And then somehow through their research, they address that those variants over time mutated and became the new variants that we see today. Something. I don't know. There's a lot that they could do, but like I said, to have a cure happen at all kind of undermines everything that Robert Kirkman had written. And I think that's a terrible way to go. And if you don't have his approval, if you don't have something better, you're going to pull a D&D from Game of Thrones and you're going to fuck it up. And I don't want you to fuck it up. So I hope whatever ideas you have, you've run by Robert Kirkman and he's given his stamp of approval on it. But other than that, I really hope you just go, I hope you have the balls to go, they're looking for a cure and they never find one. I would be willing to watch that. I like the idea of them looking for one and it being a fruitless endeavor. Because there should be more of that. There should be more of that. Trying to find answers and not getting them. Because that gets the audience invested. We're as invested as the characters. It's emotional because just that little fraction of hope can both be inspirational to feel like there's a cure on the other side and devastating to know that if they do find a cure that they could have saved people. That is an interesting component of the show. But what makes it more tragic, what makes it better writing is if they do all of that, they have all of that hope, and then they're still knocked down a peg when they realize that it is hopeless. You know? And I know it's grim, but it's called The Walking Dead for a reason. It's kind of like that Korean show that I really like. It's called All of Us Are Dead. You think a lot of people live in that show with a title like that? No. And they've taken a completely different spin on the zombie genre that I haven't quite seen before. It's very different. But, I'm sorry, some of these shows need to be grim, and the only hope that they have is with each other. You know, it's sort of like when Rick was saying, like, Carl, he's the future. Carl, Judith, Gracie, RJ, everyone. It's not about us anymore. It's about them. It's about making a better world for them. Because I would like to see them get out of this situation, find each other, get back to their families, and then just make it a nice happy ending or make it a brutal ending. Have a brutal end to this. Happy or brutal are memorable. If it ends in a nice way, great. If it ends in a brutal way, great. If it ends in a whimper, then you wasted all of our time. And I don't want that for the audience, and I really don't want that for fucking Andrew Lincoln and Denai Guerrera. They're too good of actors to have you fuck them. So give them some juicy stuff to sink their teeth into and be bold with your decisions and just fucking go for it. And Kelly, your article, despite a few weird things that you had grammatically, it caught my attention. Okay? You caught my attention. And if you're right, if the showrunners and everybody just agree that, yeah, this was the CRM the whole time and that really was the plan, and then I guess bravo. I'll eat my words. If it's fantastic and it's exactly what you said it is, I will eat my words. I'll be the first one to come on here and do it. Same with Jordan when I read his article, a couple episodes ago. I will stand by it. I am not trying to just like shit on you for the sake of shitting on you. I read your article because you got my attention. And it was an interesting idea. So, I know it's going to be kind of a short episode, but I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching this episode of The Walking David. Once again, I'm your host, David Grayson, and be sure to like, comment, and share this video with your friends and anybody who loves The Walking Dead. And people, please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so that you're notified anytime I have a new post or a new podcast episode drops. Thanks, everybody.
We're the ones who live. All of us. There's enough podcasts for everyone. We don't have to listen to all of them. Not until we're all ready. We never have to see each other. We're the ones who live. We are The Walking Dead. And we are The Walking David. I'm Rick Grimes. Signing off.